Joe De Giulio.
Good to be back on here, Ben.
Fuck yeah, man. Great to have you back.
Yep.
What's on your mind?
Dude, not too much. I'm just, it's good to be back here with you. Getting married the beginning of March. So I'm excited about that. And, years kicking up with business. So there's that. We're moving into a new house in a couple of weeks. Me and Gianna start moving furniture in and getting that whole situation figured out. So there's some moving pieces. And then a couple days after my wedding, we've got a massive family court date. Because after my dad passed, our family, kind of stepped in and started fraudulently taking money from us. So there's a lot of moving pieces in my life right now, but it's all headed in a very positive direction. Kind of starting this next chapter with having a family and really having to lean into God during this time period. There's a lot of faith that I'm trying to bring into my life and letting go of a lot of that fear, right? Because the way I look at it is, God, for me at least, God's either everything or he's nothing. Like when I wake up one day and I decide that, hey, like I'm going to figure today out on my own and I'm going to try to just put as much of my energy and will into making my life work. It always falls a little short and I have to carry a lot of that fear with me throughout the day. And on the flip side of that, when I let God into my life to start my day, it's just everything flows a lot better and I have more clear direction on what I need to be doing. And I think most importantly, I feel the purpose behind my actions and what I'm doing throughout the day. So really I'm in a place right now where I'm trying to lean more into God and let go of the fear and have the faith, right? So little intro for you there.
There we go. And you talk about getting married. Obviously, that's a really significant life event. Who do you feel like you had to evolve into to get to a place where getting married was the next life step?
That's a great question. Well, that's a great question because I never really thought, when I was younger, I always thought I want to be married and have kids and the whole family thing. But then once life got hard and I was in my early 20s, even mid 20s, the idea of getting married just seemed too much. Maybe that's for other people. I don't know if I'm capable of doing something like that. But I think ultimately the whole idea that where you're at is what you're going to attract into your life is played out with me. For example, Gianna and I, if we had met 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6, we would have not even have been friends. We were just on two different wavelengths. The principles that she lives her life by, the character, the faith that she has and her family has, it just wouldn't have worked. Like there would have been no connection there, right? It's technically the two same people, Gianna and myself, that having met, say 5 years ago, we would have had no connection, nothing in common, no similar values. Maybe deep down I thought I had these values, but ultimately your values are what you show to the world and your actions, right? Because I lived a lot of my life where I believed I was a good person or I believed, that I was a person of faith, but I didn't live that out in my life. Kind of like if you were to look at the stats at the end of a basketball game, how many points did you put up, how many assists, how many rebounds, with my life, it was how often were you going to church? What was your record with relationships in the past? How did those pan out? The statistics and what I was putting out into the world wasn't maybe backing what I felt inside I should be doing. So once I got to the point in my life where my actions and my values, at least deep down, started aligning more so, and then I met Gianna, we were able to connect and be two people that were wanting to head in the same direction with our life. We're still both evolving. We've been together 2 years now. From the time that we met till now, much different people in better ways, right? We're both stronger in our faith. We both are farther along in our careers. But going back to it all, I don't know how we got to this point where I'm getting married now. It's just putting in the work day in, day out, and getting to a place in my life where it still sounds like a big unknown what starting a family and all that looks like. but I have a lot more confidence because of the transformation I've had in such a short amount of time. So I know that transforming into that future father, that husband, it's just going to take a lot of the same work that I've, done so the last couple of years just to become to where I'm at right now, right? So great question though. Yeah.
It seems like we're at a place nowadays in society where that is a thing that's strived for less and less by men. Like less men want to be husbands, less men want to be fathers, like less men are looking at that as a viable option for how they want to live their life.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I'm lucky to be, or I'm blessed to be surrounded by a lot of guys that have a similar vision as me. Being strong in the Christian community, it's something that is a big focus of most men, of wanting to have a family, wanting to be the breadwinner of the house, and breadwinner as in, maybe financially, but emotionally, spiritually, being the leader, right? I think the whole idea that men and women bring the same things to marriage or relationships, it's not necessarily the full truth. I mean, I think the man is supposed to lead his household, right? And so for me, I didn't necessarily know a lot of that, but just by having good mentors and having good people that are one step or multiple steps ahead of me in their life, I'm learning that, hey, like as the guy, it's your responsibility to maybe be the driver financially, but also spiritually, emotionally, being emotionally the backboard for your wife, spiritually being able to lead your wife stronger in her faith, your future kids. So there's a lot expected, or not maybe I don't know if it's expected, but there's a lot that I think a man is supposed to bring to a marriage, and a lot of key things that are important for them having a flourishing family. And so, you got going back to the two directions you can head. You can go your own way and fall short, or you can lean into God and he can equip you with the tools and the knowledge and wisdom to become that man that can provide for his family and bring a lot of these leadership qualities. Because I think a lot of guys, we're in this society right now where we're wired to like think that like I got to go do it on my own, got to figure out how to get rich quick. But then, hey, by the way, I'm almost 30 years old now or whatever, and I got to figure out this family stuff. And then also, there's all this crazy other stuff going on with my life, and things are just feeling really fast paced. And you're just trying to figure all this stuff out on your own. When for me, I had to learn the hard way, but it's ultimately having the strength to slow down and be able to, realize that, hey, dude, my ego is getting in my way. Let's get humble here, and let's realize that, I can lean on God, and I can ask for direction from him. Because I mean, I don't know, ego, I always hear this, but ego is edging God out. So I got, so I think going back to it all, it's a tough one for guys wrestling with, marriage, and if that's going to be best for them.
Well, it's interesting. And then also the other thing that it brings up is like, what is kind of our life's mission, our life's purpose while we're here
Yeah.
during this lifetime on this earth, and what we're looking to accomplish or carry out and live by. And then it's like, is that something that's meant to be lived out with a partner? Can it only be lived out with a partner? Is that something that you are more so inclined to live out on your own? And it's like so many people I feel now are more so pushing that back, or not taking any specific action, or maybe not seeing it as much of a necessary piece of their life. So I find it like fascinating, and I find it interesting. And it's like, and obviously I know you're awesome. I know Gianna's awesome. Like, I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited to be there for you guys. And yeah, I think you guys have a bright future ahead. I think it's like amazing to see how the relationship between you guys has evolved over the years. And
Thank you.
it's
Thank
like,
you.
and yeah, when you guys get married, it's like, it's going to be a beautiful beginning. And so many people view like the wedding or the marriage as it's like, hey, all of this has led up to the marriage. It's like, now we're good type of thing. Like this is what we've been waiting for all along. But the truth is like that really is the ultimate beginning.
Yep. That's a good way to put it. It really is. I mean, let me ask you this. So being a guy that's, around 30 years old now and being single, what is your thoughts on marriage?
It's really interesting because I think about this quite a bit because I see people in my life, people like yourself, some other friends, a lot of people are in places in their life where they are in partnership, where they are getting married, where they are having kids. And I've seen that the people who have the right partners and the right family, and it's like it really is the most fulfilling thing in the world for them. Like I really enjoy being around those people and kind of feeling the level of frequency that they are at because they both, the masculine and the feminine, both elevate each other when there is a relationship that is aligned. And I also have seen people that have been in relationships where it is not aligned and the masculine takes away from the feminine and the feminine takes away from the masculine. And so I feel that it's really important for whatever relationship that I would ultimately end up finding myself in to look for alignment first, whether it's alignment in values, alignment in frequency, alignment in goals, trajectory, where I want to go in life, alignment in masculine, feminine dynamics, which appears to be something that, I mean, since the dawn of time, nobody has fully cracked. Obviously, we can try to understand what we can try to understand about it and how we communicate and how we exist together. But I see it as a positive thing if you come from a place of alignment. But I feel like so often there are people who jump into a relationship out of a place of wanting one or needing one because they're not having one. And I feel like that's where we end up in trouble as a society. I feel like that's where you end up with having a kid or two and divorcing, and that's how you create broken homes. And that not only leads to a broken home for that family, that creates traumas for the children that come from those broken homes. And then now they don't see relationships in a positive light. And then as they grow older, they're more destined to fall into a relationship that may not be as secure or as steady. And then now that can lead to the divorce 20 years later when a little boy or a little girl grows up and turns 28, 29, 30, gets married. All of a sudden, now they end up in a cycle where they're in a relationship for 5 or 6 or 7 years, and there's no alignment, but they did it because it appeared to be the next step that they should take from a societal standpoint. So I guess alignment is really the word. Alignment is really the word, and that would be the thing that I would look for. And there's no cookie cutter answer to that for any one person. I feel like there's somebody out there for everyone, and that you have to grow yourself to a certain place and reach a certain frequency yourself that you emit. And eventually you will meet somebody who is on a similar frequency as you. And that's when things can come together.
That's a good point. I mean, I thought about what you're saying when you go into a relationship at a place where there's a need to fill some void, or just there's something about that relationship that sounds like it's gonna make you feel better about where you're at, or fill some sort of gap or area in your life that's just not whole. And at least in my experience, it doesn't work that way. Like whatever unresolved traumas or things that I'm still working with, a relationship will only exacerbate that, right? So whatever I bring into a relationship is going to come out, and it's going to get exposed, or it's going to come to the surface. I'm not married yet, but I heard once you get married, it's even that much more, where everything comes to the surface at some point. And so people that maybe go through their life and haven't dealt with a lot of traumas or, little vices they have, whatever the case is, emotional stuff, it's it's going to come to the surface at some point in the marriage. And so I think from what I've seen and what I'm hearing for marriages, it's really important to keep doing the work on, having the ability to work on the marriage and to keep you guys in alignment, but then also to keep doing the work on yourself. So that way you can bring the best version of you to the marriage. 'Cause I think that there's this idea, there's clearly in our generation, there's clearly this idea of like, what will you bring to this relationship? When I look at why I should be with you, let's look at what you can bring to the table, right? It's all about like fill up me, 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 me. However, in order for a relationship to be healthy and for it to, you to feel whole, for her to feel whole, it's got to be more about what are you going to bring to the table? So it's more of relationships, marriages are very selfless. And seeing healthy marriages from the outside, they're very selfless because I'm doing the work in order to be the best version of me for you, for our family. And if I don't, it's not going to probably work, or there's going to be a lot of tension. Being in the financial planning world and doing that as a career, I see it all the time with families. The biggest tension is money. And why is it money? Because the husband and wife hadn't done whatever work in their past on trauma around finances, or maybe they were raised in a household where they weren't able to talk about money, or its parents kind of just kept it off to the side, or there was weird traumas that they brought into the family from their generation. And so you have these husbands and wives that are, trying to figure out things financially, and they bring their own traumas with money to the table and their own insecurities around it. Because most of the financial insecurities are not to do with it's less to do with like what's happening right now and figuring out a way to make this work, and more to do with like some internal trauma of like the way that our parents dealt with money, or some sort of insecurity we have from the past that hasn't been dealt with, because ultimately, like whether it's money fears or intimacy fear, whatever it is, we have to work through it in order for myself and my wife, or whatever the couple is, in order for them to have a healthy communication around that and be in alignment, like you said. So it's interesting, I guess. The bottom line is marriage is not easy, and are you willing to continue to do the work? Clearly in Orange County, most people are not, or they get into a marriage from the wrong place, because the divorce rate, I think, is at 60%. And it's a great career for divorce attorneys here. So, there's people that can win on failed relationships, but I think it's just tough, and there's got to be more of a focus on what can I bring to the table, and less about what can I take, what can I take, what can I take. And we do live in a society that drives us that way, of being a taker rather than a giver. And also too, we're human, so we're not perfect, and so we're all gonna fall short. So it's that battle, and choosing, like I was going back to the whole idea from the start, choosing my way and what's best just for me, or having a little bit of humility and choosing what's best for me, my wife, maybe my future family, for my friends, getting outside of myself. That's where the real freedom comes, is when I can, when I'm thinking less about Joe and thinking more about, how can I be a light in other people's day, and what can I bring that is going to bring more light into your life, right? So
It's interesting because it's like you want to essentially act in the best interest of your highest self, like your future self, like Joe in 10 years, Ben in 10 years. Like, what are my actions that I can take today that will ultimately yield the greatest return in 10 years and try to get to my highest timeline. And you're never going to catch those 10 years ahead because the 10 years just keep moving back, right? But can I view all the actions that I take today from a lens of this is for my highest good so I can become my highest self? And that would involve coming from a place of giving unconditionally when I meet someone. And if I get somebody who meets me in a way like that and comes back at me in a reciprocal type of way, right? Whether that's relationships, business, friendships, whatever it may be, those are the people that you can kind of grow with and build with. And it all comes back to, it's like, how do you view things as far as like the bigger picture? Because like, imagine there's this big picture, right? Big picture, big puzzle, right? All these different little puzzle pieces. Let's say the puzzle is complete, but you're so fixated on one piece, right? I am fixated on Ben in today in 2026. And that's the piece of the puzzle, the small little thing I'm focusing on right now. But it's like, can I take a couple steps back, zoom out, see the entire big picture of the puzzle and just go, hey, this challenge that I'm going through now, or this thing that I'm going through now with relationships or friendships or business is really just a part of the picture. It's not the whole picture. And knowing that I now see the whole picture, it's like, how do you take the actions and the steps that take you in the right direction to reach your highest timeline? And a part of that is also to work on a lot of those childhood traumas that we talk about. And because, like you said, there's people who bring these traumas into relationships that are unresolved. And everybody has traumas, and you're never going to solve or resolve 100% of them. But the question is how can you come from a place where your traumas stay your traumas and don't rub off on other people and become their traumas as well, because you're focused on yourself and maybe what voids they can fill or what you can take from them, and kind of focus on just giving unconditionally and trusting that the right people that are aligned for you in life will give back to you.
Yeah, that's well said. I think the biggest thing that I've learned, and it's something that I struggle with today, and I think a lot of people struggle with it, is at some point in their life, is fear, anxiety, just that feeling of being uncomfortable, or just living in a state where there's clearly action that needs to be taken. So I used to look at, for a long time I struggled with, and I've shared this on your last time we were together, but I struggled through addiction, and it was brutal, and my life was, in a very dark place. I probably shouldn't be alive today, be just the amount of situations I put myself in, and this, that, the other. But I always lived with a heavy amount of anxiety and fear. And I wish when I went to a therapist, they'd have just told me that, like, hey, like, instead of talking about your problems, I'm going to give you just some clear action steps. Go out and do this, and then come back and let me know how you feel. So there's too much time spent, I think, where we're reminiscing and we're ruminating in this, whatever that fear block is, and we're just thinking about it over and over, of like, oh my gosh, I can't find the right relationship, or I'm never going to be successful, or this or that. And it's just, no, like, today I need to start with this, and this action, go out and do it, and then I start feeling better. Right? Like, so many days I have it where I'm halfway through the day and I'm a little too stressed. Like, there's too much, I'm holding on to too much fear right now. And why am I living this way? And so instead of sitting in that fear and instead of staying in a place where I'm not getting anything done, I'm not having a successful day, and I feel like crap as well by sitting in it never feels good to sit with that anxiety and that fear. I've got two options: either sit in it and continue to feel the pain from that, or go take clear, actionable steps. And whatever that looks for you might be different than someone else, but figure out what that is for yourself. So one of the biggest things with being sober, right, is it's not like I used to think of it as, these guys that have 20, 30 plus years of sobriety and they were like on the verge of dying and they had like a needle in their arm and they're underneath the Garden Grove freeway. I'm like, dude, that guy just one day he woke up, started believing in God, and next thing you know, he just never felt the need to drink again. It's not that. These people, they put in a lot of work. Like, so I think a huge, and I know I'm kind of spinning this into sobriety talk, but at least for me, what I always understood about sobriety and these people that go out and they rebuild their entire lives, it's, there's a lot of daily action that they take, right? Like I have friends 30 years sober, they wake up 6 a.m. AA meeting every day. Then they're on their knees praying next to their bed, not once, not a little bit when they need it, every day. And then they're going to work and then they're coming home, and before they go to bed, they're writing down an inventory of every area in their life that they had a big win today, or maybe areas that they could have been a little bit of a better person. Maybe they got a little bit angry with their wife, or they, said something to a coworker they shouldn't have. Writing it all down, clearing the table, clearing that of whatever that is in their head, and then moving on to the next day. But like clear, actionable steps. And so I'm always impressed with how much more discipline and just like grit and things that other people have that I admire, because it is really easy for me to look at people's lives that are successful now and that overcame addictions or dealt with adversity and be like, dude, that's cool that worked out for you. Like how lucky, or like what a miracle. But it's like, whoa, like it is a miracle, but they put a lot of work in, and most people would just never do that. Right? Like there's one thing to say like, hey, when I drink alcohol, my life falls apart and my marriage is gone and my kid, I can't talk to my kids whatever it is. Alcoholism, for example, it does a lot of bad stuff to families. But if I were to tell you what it's going to take to get sober, like it's not that I have like the exact answer, but I mean, I think AA, for example, has worked for millions of people, and there's clear steps. They're the 12 steps. They literally tell you if you work these 12 steps, you're probably going to not have to drink again and you're going to have an incredible life. But guess what? You still got to work these steps. And in a couple of years of sobriety, I've seen hundreds of people come into AA, my age, younger, older, and a very small amount of them end up staying. Most of them, I've known many that have already died because they weren't willing to work a few actionable steps. So there's like this big disconnect sometimes, and I don't know what it takes. Every person, we're different in, what's going to get us to tick enough to take those actionable steps we need to in our life. And I think for me, the biggest thing I've learned is when I don't have the willingness to take the steps that I need to, in whatever part of my life it is, I at least can go to God and ask him for the strength, the courage, the wisdom to take those steps. But it doesn't make it easy always. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I see so much, there's this culture of like, people get it. I live a fast-paced life. There's a lot of fear that can kick in. There's a lot of different stresses. There's different vices people have. There's different this, that, the other. But I don't think a lot of people just have like a clear, step-by-step, actionable, way of looking at it of like, okay, yes, I feel like crap right now, but if I do this, this, and this, I'll be good. And then just plug and play. Every day I do this, this, and this, I'm going to have a great day. I do this, this, and this, I'm going to have a great day. If I don't, I'm going to, I'll deal with the consequences. So.
Yeah. And I feel like the end result of anything you do in life, the end result is something that is a culmination of a choice. That's not just one choice, but a choice that's made every day. Like if you want to be sober for 30 years, sure, you made the initial choice to be sober, but you have to wake up every single morning and make that choice that you're going to be sober.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be Steph Curry and you want to be the greatest shooter of all time, you've got to wake up every morning and make that choice that you are going to be the greatest shooter of all time. If you're going to generate a tremendous amount of wealth like Elon Musk, it's not like you just woke up one day is like, I'm going to be the richest man in the world, and that $700 billion just showed up in his bank account. He made a choice each and every day that he was going to work towards. Obviously for him, it's a much larger purpose, but he was going to be consistent in what he was doing. And again, it's a daily choice for an extended amount of time. So there's 365 days in a year, right? Over 10 years, that's 3,650 choices of today I'm choosing this. Today again, I'm choosing this. Yep. Today again, I'm choosing this. And all those yes choices over a certain amount of time will compound and ultimately yield that greatest result. But it's so interesting because so many of us look at that end result and we just see how far away it is or how impossible it is. But it wasn't just one choice. You have to make that choice over and over and over and over again.
Yep.
And stay consistent with it. And the choice primarily is to be consistent and choose it over and over again. The person with the six-pack abs didn't just snap his fingers overnight and have six-pack abs. He chose it every day when he went to the gym. He chose it every day when he ate healthy. He chose it every day when he decided to get a good night's sleep instead of staying out late and partying or drinking or whatever somebody could choose to do. So it's really interesting for me anytime I see somebody who has achieved a tremendous result to think of like how many years has this been in the making? Like you look at somebody like Taylor Swift who's selling out stadiums multiple times in the same city. She's adding millions of dollars to the surrounding economy, local restaurants. People are traveling into the town where she's performing at. She releases albums. They sell like a lot of them, selling a ton of merch. She's a global name. Everybody around the world knows her. Like at a certain point in time, she was a high school kid who had a dream of making music and had a dream of people hearing her music. And from the time she was in high school, for every day for the next 20 years, she chose, I am going to go down the road of having my music reach as many people as it can possibly reach.
Yep.
And she stayed more consistent than any other musician has in those last 20 years. And then nowadays we see who Taylor Swift is today. Taylor Swift wasn't born overnight, like the success, the giant, the household name. Taylor Swift chose who she was going to be first in one choice, and then had a series of making thousands of daily choices to become the person that she became. And that's why I just have so much admiration for not only Taylor Swift, but anybody who goes and achieves that extraordinary result, because it's an incredible series of choices throughout an incredible amount of time and an incredible amount of consistency that leads you to that extraordinary result.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it too is, but I think a big part of it is perception. Like, how do you perceive Like for example, I'm sure with a lot of successful people, there's some level of like organized chaos that's going on in their head. They've got some sort of beast or challenge that they're facing mentally, emotionally, and instead of letting it beat them down, they channel it and they perceive it in a way, or they build around it in a way to lead to their success, right? And it ends up being less of a crutch and more of a driver, right? So like I mean, for me, for example, you know, very active mind. Like I don't always seem that way maybe to other people, but like head's always firing, thoughts are firing. It's easy for me to get on edge pretty quick, but I can look at it two ways. I can look at it as one, gosh, dude, like that's so much emotional regulation that's going to take, and just got just it's a little bit of an annoyance. Or on the flip side of it, I can look at it and be like, okay, dude, you've got all this stuff that you can use to provide like more energy and more of a driver towards whatever purpose that it is that I'm working towards. So like at the office, it's towards work with clients, building relationships, all the above. Because I got that driver of like organized chaos in my head, where it's hard for me to just sit still and like have complete peace of mind. But is that a good or a bad thing? I mean, I get to choose, right? I can perceive it as, dude, I got a ton of anxiety and that's so unfortunate. Or, dude, I've got all this energy and I've got this chaos that I can, kind of spin in a direction to help me become that much more successful, right? So I think a lot of your top performers, I mean, like your Kobe Bryant's, I'm a tennis guy, Novak Djokovic, big tennis guy that's definitely got a lot going on upstairs is Nadal. I mean, like all the little, the guy can't step on a line when he's walking on the court. He's like lifting his, he's like adjusting his underwear before every return. He's like having to move his hair before every, like there's a lot of crap going on in that guy's head. Like I would not consider him probably like the most emotionally just like stable guy on a day-to-day basis without probably taking a lot of like work, right? And a lot of just directing a lot of that chaos the right way. So I think a lot of people, they've got things going on, and it's less about like trying to fit some sort of mold, but like how do I find a way to perceive what I have and what I might struggle with or look at as a challenge, and use that as a driver into a positive force, right? And so for me, it's that like it's easy to get on edge. I can get anxious really quick. My head doesn't slow down very easily, but I get to stay super healthy because I love to work out a lot, because that's a huge mental benefit for me. So like the hot yoga, tennis, running, I've ran marathons. And on the flip side, I get to drive a lot of that energy into relationships, and like, I'm naturally a little bit social. I'm naturally having a little bit of social anxiety. So then that's another challenge of like, how do I learn how to build relationships with other people, step outside my comfort zone, and take these, maybe perceived challenges, and just redirect that into organized, positive chaos, whatever you want to call it, right? So I'm sure that makes sense to you, but it's just something that was on my mind. It's interesting how people they'll direct and they'll perceive things one way or the other, and it can be for leading to some of the greatest successes we've seen, or it can take people down a dark path where they end up in addiction, different mental diagnoses going on, and just a tough path, right? That line is not very, that line is very marginal. The line between, in my opinion, the line between like mental disorder and like genius and success and like champion, that line, dude, that can be very marginal sometimes. Think about that. Getting a diagnosis from a doctor for having like clinical depression or like severe anxiety or needing to be put on all these meds and becoming one of the greatest in whatever industry it is. The human mind is so powerful, that line can be so marginal. And it's a fine, there's a few events that might play out in our life that make the difference between an Elon Musk and a guy that's maybe ends up in a psych ward and needing to be put on meds because he just can't control himself, right? Like it's crazy.
Well, it's interesting because it's like kind of like you go back to like tennis, right? The best players win 51 or 52% of the points. And it's all about what you're telling yourself as to what's going on. Like something could be going on in your head, and depending on what direction you steer yourself in will make all the difference. Like you were talking earlier about social anxiety. For me, that was a big one. Like I remember walking into a room where, say, there's 30 people, scanning the room and going, oh, fuck. I need to go find like some corner or some couch or somewhere to be away from the people. There are 30 people in here who, if they got to know me, could potentially use something they found out against me and harm me. Versus the reframe of nowadays, I walk into a room and I see 30 people in that room and going, hey, I have 30 different opportunities for me to get to know someone or for someone to get to know me. And maybe we can be friends. Maybe we can have a conversation and uplift each other. Maybe there's just something that was meant to happen during the interaction, either for them or for me, that really just gets us on our path of what we're meant to do in life. And there are 30 opportunities in this room, and there are 30 people that I would not have had a chance to get to know or have them get to know me if I didn't open this door and walk into this room with an open mind. And the only thing that's changed is how I view the 30 people. And all of a sudden I've gone from, hey, here's Ben, the guy who's antisocial, doesn't really have many friends, to, hey, that's Ben. He's like the most social guy in this room. Go talk to him. He's a cool guy. And all that's changed is what I've told myself about the 30 people in the room.
Yeah, that's cool. It's crazy how doing a little bit of work or exposing yourself enough to the discomfort of whatever you need to be doing to make that change, how you can end up with people being like, dude, there's no way you were ever antisocial, or there's no way you're naturally an introvert.
Yeah.
Right? Like for me, I'm much more at my core without putting myself out there. My natural being, like, I grew up very shy, was an introvert, very sheltered, didn't know how to talk to girls growing up, didn't have many friends. It was just like tennis, kind of to myself. But over time, just the exposure, the putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, all those actions, just constant uncomfortability, growth. And then all of a sudden your perception just changes one day. Like you walk into the same room, like you said, and those 30 people that I was terrified of before, it's like, oh, cool, dude, I can get to know a couple of these people really well today, or I'm curious to hear their stories too. And everyone's got a really cool story. Like I used to think I was so unique. That's one of the killers for people with addiction. And I think it is for a lot of people. It's not necessarily just a purely an alcoholic thing, but this idea that I'm so unique that my challenges you wouldn't understand, the voices in my head of like what I tell myself, right? Like that committee in my head that is judging what I'm doing all the time. And how like my natural being is to want to go isolate if I'm in a tough place, especially like all of those things, not being good enough, fear of failure, you know, whatever it is, all that kind of mumbo jumbo in my head. That's really common. I didn't know though until I started sharing that with people. And then other people shared the same stuff. I was like, whoa, dude, like we think the same way. And then at first it started off with people in recovery from alcoholism. And then I realized, whoa, dude, it's people outside of that too. Like it just their addiction or their struggle might show up a little bit different. You know, it works many different ways, right? Because we're all human. We live in a broken world. Not that that's a negative, but it's just a reality. We live in a broken world, and we're all going to have our flaws. No one's perfect. And so can we have enough people in our life that we can get real and honest and vulnerable with in order to just remind ourselves that, dude, you are not unique. Like, yeah, of course I can have like unique talents and skills and like, you know, maybe my thing's tennis and your thing is, you know, swimming or whatever, right? We have different unique gifts that we have, but we're not that much different than we like to think sometimes. You know, like I like to think the toughest thing for me for a long time is always walking into a room and having to look at people and view them as either above or below me. Like, very hard to view someone on the same level. That was hard for me. It's still something I got to put the work in with, but like, just think about that. The idea of walking into a room of, say in your case, those 30 people, and I start surveying the room, better than that guy, worse than her, better, worse, better, worse, better. And I'm just putting myself up against you. But what am I doing? I'm putting up this wall, right? And I've got this persona that I'm going to put on so that you can't hurt me, right? Because you're going to hurt me, or I'm too good for you. And that guy's a loser. That guy's maybe too above me. And it's just, that gets exhausting, you know? So by just allowing myself to realize that, dude, we're all doing this thing together. And, you know, it might look a little different from person to person. However, we're all human, and you know, dude, that the crazy stuff I think that's going on in my head that you wouldn't understand, you actually might understand a decent bit of it. So,
I think the line that we're thinking about is so much smaller than we actually think it is. Like the gap between social and not social is like, can you just get from 50 to 51% social and 49% not social? Or are you going to be 51% not social and 49% social? Like, first, can you get from 51 back to 50 and then to 51? Like in anything. Like, you can go and play tennis, and it's like, if you score 49% of points, you're terrible. If you score 51% of points, you are great. And like the line is so much smaller than we think it is. Like, okay, you want to drink too many drinks. You go from 50 to 51% of inclined to drink, alcoholic. You go from 50 to 49% sober. And it's really not like a 90-10 type of thing or a 99%, 1% type of thing. We have all these 51, 49% type of things in our lives. Like, not in shape. I don't work out. I am 49% not in shape. 51%. I work out every day. I am in shape. And it's like, how do you just like tip the scales slightly in the direction that you're wanting them to go in? And that's just going to change your entire identity.
Yep. I mean, yeah, the working out one's a great example. If I'm not working out at all, I don't think about it. But as soon as a little bit of I creep in a few workouts into my life, next thing you know, like that scale of going from 2 workouts a week to 6, it's not that far off. But I just went from 0 to 2. Now you're telling me I'm going from 2 to like a guy that works out every day. Like, it's like you're saying, the margins are so small. Tennis, easiest example, Roger Federer, one of the best tennis players ever. You know, he's got his famous quote of he won, you know, 51 point something percent of all the points he played, and he's the best player to ever do it. Right? So the margins in anything we do in life is so tiny. You know, it's just crazy from like finances, like the amount of people you hear the story of like they bought in the right after the market crash versus the family that bought right before and they lost all their money. And then, and you know, like there's so many things in life, like in business, you got one guy that had a great year versus had a bad year because of one client that moved forward or this one deal that fell through. And it's so many things outside of our control. So I think going back to a lot of it, you know, can we have like some sort of whatever, I think for everyone that's different, but you need some level of structure in your life to allow yourself to keep going. So what I mean by that is that like say I'm in business and I know that if I can just keep progressively building for 10 years in a career, 10 years down the road I'm going to be super successful. So then why can't most people make it to that 10-year mark? Right? It's because at least what I've seen, especially like in financial advisory, the emotional regulation that takes and the ability to keep kind of putting one foot in front of the other, at some point something falls off, whether it's a outside personal issue or the rejection that they get in business or the expectations they had and a deal fell through. It throws them from those slow progressive steps going forward to just fully fall off and they can't get back up. Right. And then they move on to a new career or they've got this, you know, terrible period they go through and they have to have a full rebuild. But the people that are able to just step one foot in front of the other, just keep making progress. And then when crazy life stuff comes up, whether it's in work or personally, they've built enough of a structure and enough emotional strength and regulation to where it doesn't catapult them off the track they're on. They're able to maybe hold their ground. Right? Like I've got like this, the CEO of one of the firms I work, the CEO of THG Financial, he talks about like when you start off in a financial advisory, building out that business, it's like you've got this boulder, right? And you're trying to carry this boulder up a mountain. Okay. And so the thing is that you know, when you carrying a boulder up a mountain is not easy. So you know, you just keep taking one step in front of the other. Right. And the thing is, though, you can't stop moving. Like you got to keep carrying this boulder up the mountain. If I stop, dude, the weight of that boulder is at some point going to start pushing me back down. And then in some people's case, like I'm talking about, if they don't have the structure in their life and the you know, the strength emotionally, that boulder is going to fling them all the way back down to the bottom of the mountain. Full restart then, different career, new marriage, whatever it is, and they're having a full restart. So can I be that guy that is got whatever it is built around my life in order to just be okay, just taking one step at a time, right? And not have, because life's going to throw a lot of stuff at you. You're going to deal with death. You're going to deal with you know, just all these variables that are so far outside of your control. But is that gonna throw me off course? And I think the answer for most people that have maybe struggled with success in whatever area of their life is they've maybe been a little bit too susceptible to those what ifs, right?
And the what ifs and the uncertainties are really the greatest things that'll happen in our lives. Like we sit here and we think of every decision or everything that we do as like we're playing Super Mario's world and it's like you got to make the big jump. Like, hey, you got to take the big leap from one platform to the next platform. You got to get your running start and you got to make it happen.
Yeah.
But you've really just got to take a step. And like on the platform that you're currently on is your past and everything that you feel is chasing you or holding you back or that you may feel certain loyalty to. And on the next platform, the one you're taking the proverbial jump to, that's really scary and long and difficult, is everything that's waiting for you and meant for you that is unknown. And we sit there and we contemplate the jump for a very long time. And the truth is A, let's say we were to take a big jump, even if we fell on the jump, it's not like you lose a life or you die. You just fall at a certain place of where you took the jump, and maybe you're now 50% of the way to getting there instead of 0%. And you get back up from your 50% point and you jump towards the 100% point of your starting point of trying to get there. So you don't actually lose anything from taking the jump. You don't lose the energy. You don't lose the time. You don't lose what you've learned. You just get to start from where you kind of fell from and got back up. The other thing is, it's also not that big of a jump. It's just a step. Like, the ground will be there for you. It'll be flat ground. You don't have to take this crazy leap. You just got to walk. You got to take one step. And that step that you take, you'll have to take that step again.
Yep.
And you'll have to take that step again. And you'll have to take that step again. And that is how you get from 49% to 51%. And that 51% gets you the extraordinary result. And someone who's like Taylor Swift and is at 49%, I have a dream to put music out, takes that step and goes and starts performing at her local high schools when she's in high school, to selling out every stadium around the world wherever she goes, is simply just a step.
Yep.
And another step and another step and another step, and just keeps walking forward. And she gets knocked down. She gets back up right where she fell. Sometimes it'll knock you a couple steps back, but you just keep moving forward. And over time, whatever it is that you're trying to get to, your forward steps will compound so much. And that one step 10 years in is worth as much as your first 900 steps. And the progress that you just start making is tremendous after a certain amount of time. But we all have to start somewhere. And we all have to take that initial jump. And we have to remember that that initial jump is really only a step.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, for me, I was always the guy that when I fell hard. Like I wasn't able to just take steps. So, I mean, I was until I wasn't able to. At some point in my life, especially when I started to struggle with drugs, every tough part of my life, it just was a huge drop off, right? So now what I'm seeing the last 3 years is, so I'll just walk you through real simple of what small steps can do for someone in my case. So 3 years ago, I'm downstairs in my house, no one's around, and I'm trying to figure out a rehab that will take me in the next couple of days. I can't handle the pain of waiting any longer, because I can't go a single day without filling my system with a heavy amount of drugs that would kill most people, right? So I'm like trying to figure out rehab, find a place, start taking small steps. Then I get 30 days sober, 60 days sober. Then I come home, I start building more time. Okay. And I'm doing like little things like wake up at 6 a.m., go to AA, work out, do this, and that, and hang out with these people and just, keep plugging along. Then after a few more months, I started working front desk at a yoga studio. So making minimum wage, folding towels for people, just taking steps, just show up. It's a job that's got a time clock on it. I'm just showing up and taking steps. Then I start coaching tennis again. So I start coaching tennis, just taking small steps. Fast forward a couple of years now, getting married soon, building my financial advisory practice, been able to work with some incredible people as clients, build incredible relationships. And and you're no, you're like, I have a long way to go. But from someone 2 years ago or 3 years ago was trying to figure out a rehab that could take me the next day, to a guy 6 months later that just making minimum wage, to someone that's doing pretty well now and getting married and starting that next chapter. It's like, whoa, like it's kind of cool to see over a 3 year period what little steps can do and I mean, in a pretty short amount of time, right? So like today, still being a human, I'll struggle with little stuff, like little things going on at work or little challenges with our wedding planning. It's like, whoa, 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 like I'm lost in today. But then, okay, zoom out again, big picture. Geez, dude, you were 3 years ago, you didn't want to be alive. And today you're stressed out about you guys having the right flowers at your wedding. Like how crazy does our brain work, right? Like 3 years ago, did not want to be alive. I didn't know how people walked into a grocery store sober because I was so paranoid and like just dealing with like this beast in my head. Fast forward, I'm stressed out about like making sure I can plan our honeymoon the right way and like if we're gonna stay at the best resort in Maui. It's like, dude, like how priorities change and like having to remind myself though that like these are quality problems. Like that's a quality problem to have. Like that's a good thing that you're worried about that.
Yeah.
So like take a step back for a second, take a deep breath and realize that, dude, to go from worrying about waking up tomorrow to stressed out about, what flowers you're going to have at your wedding and where you're going to go for your honeymoon, dude, that's a crazy change. But that's going back to the whole point of like little steps. And so I got to continue taking those steps because I would love, doesn't make it easy, but I would love to see 3 years from now, if I did continue to take those steps, where I'll be. Right. And it would not, and you wouldn't appreciate, and I wouldn't appreciate any of it if it wasn't so freaking hard. If it came to me easy, like if sobriety came to me easy and it came to other people easy, why would we celebrate and birthdays? And like why would people put on this big celebration for you and like give you coins and like tell you how they're proud of you if it was that freaking easy, right? Like so it makes sense when you look back at it, but in that moment and that day, it doesn't take away how heavy and hard it can be sometimes. But going to like your puzzle example earlier, where we get stuck on one piece, but when we look at the full puzzle, it's like, whoa, like this has been a ride and there's much more appreciation. That's where I live. And where I have to remind myself to live is like, dude, shouldn't be alive 3 years ago. Today you're worried about like where your honeymoon's going to be. Like if we had that same transition, like that much of a change 3 years from now, I'm curious like what those quality problems could look like. Right. So like I want to keep putting in the work today because I'm kind of curious what are those quality problems going to look like 3 years from now. But it all comes down to, am I willing to do the footwork today? And I don't know for tomorrow, but today I'm willing to, right? And I hope tomorrow I wake up with enough grace and enough courage and strength to do it again. So, we'll see tomorrow, but I'm just sharing that because, for anyone out there, like I get it, like, dude, I should have been dead 3 years ago. I'm like trying to figure out where to go to rehab. I burnt down all my relationships. I didn't know how people lived even a day sober. I'd gone years on weekends where like going out was the only thing I knew. Like I didn't know people on a Friday night could just like stay home and watch Netflix or like, do stuff that was productive. I thought like you had to be out at the bars and you like, how to get drunk and like, chase girls, whatever. Like I just thought that's like what you had, just what you did. And I couldn't look at life any other way, but go into those little steps, looking big picture now, 3 years, the quality problems are a good thing to have.
It really is the greatest blessing. And it's been interesting because lately when I come across somebody and I'll ask, hey, how are you doing? Or what have you been up to? An answer that I commonly receive is, I've been really busy. And
That's a very common one. Yes.
And I'll go and basically respond to the person. I'm like, busy is a blessing. It's like, how many times in our lives have we sat there and wished we had something to do? Like, wished you had to book that resort in Maui for your honeymoon. Wished I had this business and this business deal that I was working on, and there's a tiny hiccup with things that I need to figure out, but guess what? At this point in time, I'm in the room, I'm making the deal, I'm making things work. And the long days. Oh my God. I worked 16 hours a day the other day. What a blessing to have 16 hours worth of stuff to do. Or I just traveled to this place. I'm on 4 hours of sleep. I have a really busy day. I have to wake up really early tomorrow. What a blessing that you have something so important where you are necessary and needed early in the morning on short sleep while you're tired. And I find it so interesting, just the mind shift that we're capable of having to frame something like that as the ultimate blessing. Like, I have a friend, and him and I have been trying to get together for a couple of weeks and just get a lunch in, or just sit down together for just an hour and spend some time together and talk for a little bit, hang out. And we've been texting just about every day. And every day, either he's had something and he's been busy, or I've had something and I've been busy. And it's like, and it's literally been going on for a couple of weeks to where it's like just about every day we're sitting there going like, oh, let's try to get together today, text, see what we can make happen. And it's like, and it's funny, we're texting each other last night and it's like, hey, let's try to get together this evening. And he's like, dude, I've been working from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day this week. I can't do dinner, but how about let's do lunch on this day, a couple days from now? And I'm like, well, I'm booked tomorrow, but that day I'm going out of town. And basically it's like, now I'm out of town for a few days and then he's going out of town. We won't be able to catch each other for another couple of weeks. And he just sent a text like, man, like, how great is it that we're just both busy and we both have things that we're doing, things that are meaningful to us. And it's really just about the perspective of it. Like, what a blessing. Like, first of all, I'm grateful that I have a friend that I love enough and that he loves me enough that, like, we care enough about each other to check in and see how we're doing, be there to lend support, encouragement, like, want to see each other win. Like, I fully understand that he's busy and he's working towards his mission, and I'm excited for him to achieve his mission. He's looking at me and he's supporting me and grateful that I'm working towards my mission and I'm busy and I'm trying to achieve my mission. And there will be a time where we do get together and, like, we're going to appreciate that block of time that we get to spend together. But it's really something where it's like you walk up to somebody and you're having a conversation. They're like, oh, what's going on? It's like, I've been so busy. And you look at that in a way of like, that's a negative thing. But if you weren't busy, you'd go, I've been bored. I didn't really have anything to do. I can't wait to get busy again. And we just have these people who are essentially just hitting the ping pong ball back and forth and like not doing anything with it.
Yep.
Like not scoring any points, just rallying back and forth, and kicking the can down the road is another one.
Yeah.
And it's like you want to be busy and it's a blessing. And when you can make something work, or you get to spend some time with a friend, or you get to take a moment or enjoy a meal or succeed on a business deal, or, I mean, for us, we get to spend some time here and sit here and record a podcast and share some inspiration with the world. It's like, what a blessing.
Yep. That's true. I mean, Yeah, it's really a blessing, and I think most people you're sure, I forget what podcast we were listening to the other day on the drive back from Big Bear, but the one pastor that was talking about how we're all wired to kind of consume negative thoughts, and we have to work at positive thinking. And I always added gratitude, for example, is it takes action, right? The gratitude lists or what I don't wake up. For me, if I'm being real, I don't wake up in a state of gratitude, right? I got to work at it. And I think like these talks right now, it's good reminders because life keeps going and it's easy to feel just busy again. And so how can I, instead of having to just live in this state of negativity, it's actually much easier to take time for gratitude or to have these conversations where we just get real with each other. Like a lot of people will say, dude, as guys, it's so hard to get open with each other and to share honest, vulnerable stuff and to let go of the ego. But it's long term, it's a lot easier because by holding on to everything and re to re just living that negativity, it makes I have to live in a lot more pain. Like for me, I keep it pretty simple nowadays. If I if I go this way, it's just a lot more painful. And if I do a little bit of work when I first wake up, that's kind of a drag because I have to get out of bed early and I got to get a little bit of discipline. It ends up making my day a lot easier. Like it's actually harder to do this. It's harder for me it's for me, right? Everyone's different. It's harder for me to sleep in once I wake up. My day's harder because now I don't have as much positive enforcement in my mind already. I haven't worked out probably yet, and so there's that mental beast I have to deal with now, and it starts this cycle. And by starting with a little bit of morning discipline, it sounds tough maybe to some people, but whoa, like okay, by starting off and waking up early, getting a workout in, spending some time with God in prayer, tough, right? Because I got to get out of bed, I got to make myself uncomfortable at first, but the rest of my day is easier. The rest of my day over here is more painful. So it's like you're saying, it's a lot. It's so much of life is purely perception. I'm glad we always have these talks, and I want to keep coming back on every so often for us to check in, and we can talk about so many things. I obviously have so much just life lived around around the sobriety and addiction stuff, and with just new challenges that are going to be coming up with getting married and starting a family and overcoming those inner voices that tell you that you shouldn't be doing this or that's you're not good enough to whatever it is, right? But like I can relate with anyone that tells me, dude, I'm not successful right now, or I'm in a place in my life where it's really tough and I feel really negative, or I'm depressed, or I have anxiety, or whatever. I can relate with most of it. Or if I don't know exactly, I can kind of draw on a past feeling that's probably we can draw some similarities to. So I think that it's cool. I like being uniquely qualified to understand and relate with people that have dealt with a lot of those what ifs and those moments in life that we can't be prepared for, and we just have to go through it. So I think that these conversations are just good to have, and we can go back into our day with a little bit more lightness and a little more positive outlook on stuff, and then do it all over again at some point.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And it's interesting because it's like we do get to choose which challenge we want to take on in anything in life. Like, yeah, it's hard to get in shape. It's also hard to be a fat fuck who can't get up off the couch. Like, it's hard to build a successful business. It's also hard to not work and not have any money and try to get around that way. And you can choose the path of greatness and extraordinary result and the challenge of whatever that entails. or you can choose the path that veers from that and kind of take the easy way out, but then you're going to deal with the challenges that ultimately comes with. And in anything we do, nothing easy is worth it. And nothing worth it is easy. And the beautiful thing is we get to choose. And I'm grateful for you, grateful to have you in my life. I always enjoy these conversations that we get to have together. I feel like us as a society, as men, I feel like partaking in these conversations helps you grow and helps you level up your character and helps you establish a perspective that you may not have previously had or taken or understood. And I think it's good that when you can articulate your thoughts and there's somebody to kind of mirror those thoughts back to you or maybe show you a different perspective of what they are, that gives you an opportunity to kind of shift in the right direction and ultimately get to choose what it is in the path that you're looking to take.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, dude. And it's great being on, like you were saying, grateful for our friendship. And I'm excited to see where you take this podcast long term and all the guests you bring on and different stories people get to share and different insight. There's so much to learn and so I'm excited for you and what's ahead for you and for myself, and right those quality problems that we get to deal with.
I know, right? So, quality problems. Well, I guess my next quality problem is I'm going to have to pick out a suit for your wedding. I'm going to have to sit there, get tailored for a suit, figure something out.
That's a tough one, dude. I'm sorry.
Big problem to have, but I'm excited for it. I'm excited to be there for you and Gianna, and excited for this beautiful beginning that you guys are going to establish.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Joe, another great conversation. I really hope that this is something that we're able to share some stuff and our audience is able to take something positive away from this. Where can our audience connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, I've got my small little personal Instagram handle, Joseph Paul. You can share it in the, I'm sure they'll find it through your authentic journey. Yeah. I don't even know if they handle off the top of my head. And then, all my contact information is online. So if anyone ever wants to reach out, especially around sobriety, would love to be a resource for you. And I like to make sure I can give back in those areas, or at least share my experience. So if anyone out there can relate with or is struggling with any of those types of issues, would love to help direct you or be another person that you can at least talk with that can relate with you. So
amazing. Well, we'll throw Joe's information in the description. And anybody, feel free to reach out to Joe, bombard his inbox.
Yeah, there we go.
Because, that way he can have the opportunity to choose how to navigate through a busier day of responding to a bunch of people.
Yep.
And that'll be a privilege for him. But it was really a privilege for me and for Joe to be able to sit together today and have this conversation. Really hope we could share some great insights with you guys. If there's anything you guys resonated with or enjoyed hearing in this episode, please share this with your friends. Like the episode, subscribe, give us a follow. And I'm your host, Ben Beeri, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Authentic Journey.